Hey guys, and welcome to another Schematics update. This time we want to talk about just breaking the news, basically. Atari has pulled Rollercoaster Tycoon 3 off Steam, and for that we invited BillyMFMays.
Howdy diddly do.
And Silvarret.
Hello guys.
As well, joining is me. I'm Atari, and I have Blind with me.
Hello.
So guys, we have a news article, and I would love to ask Silv to read the information in there out for us.
Right, so it turns out that there's some juicy details about Rollercoaster Tycoon 3 and its development between Atari and Frontier, because according to Game Informer, who I believe was the first to break this news, Atari has cut off the ability to buy Rollercoaster Tycoon 3 on Steam because Frontier has sued them. Because according to Frontier, Atari has failed to pay $2.2 million in royalties because Atari went bankrupt in 2013, and now that Atari is kind of making money again, not even entirely sure how they're making money again, but apparently since they're out of the worst financial issues, Frontier now wants their royalties. And as a result, Rollercoaster Tycoon 3 is not on Steam anymore. That means that you can't buy the game anymore, but you can actually still play it and open it yourself if you already have it.
It's worth mentioning that it's not just been pulled from Steam, it's been pulled from literally every single digital sales platform in existence, with the exception of the gray market.
Yeah.
You just can't purchase the game anywhere. This has happened before with other games, but this is a very curious case because this lawsuit's been going on for a while. And you mentioned that you don't know how Atari's making music. Well, clearly it's from t-shirt sales. Clearly how they're making revenue here is because they're selling t-shirts, all those Atari logos.
I still believe they have some online gambling activities. They might not be selling their games really well, but they're making their games at such ridiculously low prices that maybe that's some things as well. But I think gambling has recently been like their most important support.
I would love to ask Billy to read out what David Welsh has to say about that, who is COO of Frontier.
Yep, he basically said that we can confirm that Frontier is currently pursuing a complaint against Atari. We have attempted to resolve this issue without legal action since April 2016, which is, I guess, about the time Planet Coaster went into early access, if I recall correctly. We have so far been denied our contractual right to audit by Atari, and we are unfortunately left with no other way to resolve our concerns. We are unable to offer any comment while this matter is subject to due legal process. And yeah, basically just them saying that we're trying because they want their money, basically. I mean, it's been an issue since like 2013, according to the articles, where they kind of let Atari off the hook, I guess, because they didn't have any money. They were declaring bankruptcy, and then somehow they found a magical pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and they're starting to make money again. And yeah, here we are.
By licensing out literally everything to literally anybody that will take the license and hopefully make them $18 and change.
I guess it's worked.
Yeah, somehow.
I mean, yeah, it works, but it makes you look like a horrible company. Also, as far as I know, the mobile Rollercoaster Tycoon games are quite profitable. As much as we like to talk smack about them,
Oh yeah.
everything that I've heard, those games make stupid money.
Well, Blind, it doesn't make you look like a horrible company.
Yeah, it makes you a horrible company. I mean, those things are not games. Those things are pretty much pathological gambling machines that just force people to buy things off of psychological tricks.
At the end of the day, like, it's not just that. Look up any Atari box or like small developed thing that just happens to have Atari games included. Like, they will license their games out to anybody who will put it into a Raspberry Pi and sell it on Kickstarter. Like, you can, the number of places you can purchase repackaged Atari games is insane.
Right.
It's quite interesting that it's not the first lawsuit Atari is facing, and maybe Blind, you have a little bit more insight in that, so can you please take on this?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Back in 2007, Atari and Chris Sawyer were embroiled in a lawsuit that involved Frontier. It was said that Frontier had developed an enhanced version of Rollercoaster Tycoon 3, which it intended to license to a third-party purchaser. Atari claimed Sawyer was in breach of contract by assisting Frontier on this, and sued Sawyer for damages. The dispute ended with an out-of-court settlement.
Just gotta say, this is a quote from Eurogamer before any copyright issues emerge.
It's interesting because of the number of lawsuits between these companies. You know, we had the lawsuit between Chris Sawyer and Atari specifically over the Transport Tycoon name, which is how we got Transport Tycoon Mobile instead of Locomotion Mobile, which is what that would have ended up being. Also, Chris Sawyer suing for the rights to use the name Rollercoaster Tycoon, which is how we got Rollercoaster Tycoon Classic on PC and mobile. Admittedly, that's not a great product on PC, but that's a different discussion. So the number of lawsuits that these companies have been involved in is a little bit crazy at this point.
Yeah.
And I think it's also the way that Frontier is saying it. Of course, we don't really have any quote from Atari on it, but the way that they're saying it, it's not something that they wanted to do, really. It's pretty much their last resort, and they've been trying to, as much as possible, get things done without going to legal action. But Atari has just been ignoring them.
You don't really want to go sue your previous employer.
Yeah.
Well, you don't really want to sue anybody. It's a long and arduous process. It's incredibly time consuming and incredibly expensive.
Exactly, and there's always the risk that the court sees it differently than you are. So as you said, it's expensive and there's no guarantee in making the money back. So yeah, it's a thing that's quite difficult. I kind of want to talk a little bit about the thing that the Steam page is still up, but it's completely erased from GOG and official resellers. So there is no notice of Rollercoaster Tycoon 3 anymore.
I think that might partially be just the way the sites are set up. I think it depends on the case, and I think it depends on who is pulling the game.
Another thing I want to ask basically the panel here is the lawsuit, as far as we know, started in April 16. So why now?
Most likely that maybe a judge finally got involved, or they finally brought the case to a judge. You know, even preparing a case takes a while to actually do. As for why it might have been pulled now too, is that maybe Atari kind of realizes that they could actually have to pay Frontier, and they don't want to keep selling a game that they'll have to pay royalties on later. So they're just trying to cut their losses while they can, and then maybe they'll renegotiate a contract with Frontier, but it's up in the air pretty much.
Perhaps this is some sort of ruling, like along with what Billy said, but maybe they're cutting it as part of some form of settlement that hasn't come out yet.
Doesn't it just say that they've been trying to do it without suing them since April 2016, but since yesterday there is no other way but to go to a lawsuit because Atari has been denying everything that they've been asking for, even though they have the contractual right to it?
You're totally correct. It says that they are trying to resolve the issue since April 16. Still, we have articles here from early 17 that Atari is sued from Frontier, so it's going on for at least a year on this point. So yeah, it's quite late to pull the plug, but yeah, obviously you might be right that it's some sort of like ruling or a judge saying, okay, as soon as it isn't resolved, pull it off of Steam. We don't know. A question I want to ask again is, do you think Atari is expecting to sell it soon again?
That might depend on the verdict or the end result of the lawsuit. Who knows how far this could go? Maybe they could lose the rights to Rollercoaster Tycoon entirely. I don't know. Or at least Rollercoaster Tycoon 3.
Wouldn't that be fantastic?
They might not be able to lose the entire franchise rights, but at least probably to 3. Maybe it goes to Frontier, but I don't know the IP law that well, and I don't know how this would end, but it could be possible.
I personally think without having a window into that courtroom, it's impossible to tell.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I don't really have any experience that would help me in this kind of thing. I've just played Rollercoaster Tycoon 3 much more than is considered healthy. Even with all the time that I spent on the Rollercoaster Tycoon forums and talking with people and speculating about Atari and what they're doing, it's all just speculation in the end.
Okay guys, I think we can wrap up here because we collected all information we have right now. I think it's a quite interesting topic, and it's kind of close to our hearts because we all played Rollercoaster Tycoon 3 except blind, but we liked it.
I like the franchise.
That's how I got my start on Twitch, actually, was Rollercoaster Tycoon 3.
That's how I started YouTube.
I never did anything but sitting in my dark little room playing Rollercoaster Tycoon, and yeah, that's about it.
I remember watching Billy stream that and following him, and then the next day he was streaming WoW, and I was like, well, I'm out.
Are we just gonna diss each other at this point?
Anyways, guys, let's wrap this up. First of all, thanks a lot, Silv and Billy, for joining and talking real quick about this interesting matter with us.
You're very welcome.
Thanks for having us.
And for our listeners and viewers, thanks a lot for listening and viewing. If you really enjoyed this video and want to support us even more, you may want to consider going over to Ko-fi. The link to our Ko-fi page is in the description, and buy the editor a coffee so he can stay up all night editing this video and videos to come in the future. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.